Good morning and welcome back to Gray Magnolias. My name is Alma. This is my channel where I talk about books I'm reading, things I'm making, any other crafty projects I get into, thrifting, which I have not done in quite some time, and I hope to rectify that soon. But I am making myself a cup of tea. This is a thrifted mug. I haven't shared this one yet, I don't think. Well, I think I did share it in like a thrift haul, or maybe a short I did, but super cute. It's made in Japan. There was several others, and I was like, oh, do I really need another mug? And I'm not a fan of the size because I like me a big cup of tea or a big cup of coffee. So for this little cup of tea, I'm going to have this. I haven't had this in a while, so I'm excited about that. It's really light and mild, and I like that. I am looking forward to a cup of coffee though. But in this video, I kind of want to talk about why I DNF'd Daggermouth by H.M. Wolfe. It came out earlier this year or at the end of last year, self-published. The author got a major traditional publishing book deal, and then I don't think a movie deal, but like a massive book deal, like six figures type of situation. Sorry, my kettle's right there. And I kept seeing videos, and like the videos I kept seeing on Instagram weren't necessarily like oh my god, you just got to read it. Like if they were pretty simple, not too much into it. um a lot of the catchy terms like dystopian, enemies to lovers, and I love me a good mafia romance and all that stuff. I love me some darkness. Like I don't mind. I've read a lot in my past that I just like ate up. My reading has changed significantly for compared to like what I read back in like during COVID 2020. I'm an avid reader. I've been reading my whole life since I could read. Can't even remember how I learned how to read. Like it was at school or I taught myself, but then after that, forget about it. Like you couldn't keep a book out of my hand. Like I didn't go out and play. I was reading. I didn't get into mischief. I was reading. I remember I had a childhood friend that we would like go to each other's house with like a stack of books, and we would trade and all this stuff. If I could, people talk about, oh, I wish I could go back in time and change this. I wish I could go back in time. I was like sticking up right here. I wish I could go back in time and like tell my younger self, write down every title you've ever read. Because I would love to revisit some of the stuff that I've read. I have remembered a few and I have thrifted a few. One of the few books I reread every year, like it was a holiday. I have that on my shelf. I haven't reread it yet. I think that'd be really fun to do soon. So I have remembered a few, but I like thousands of books I read. So again, I feel like I have variety in my literature, especially now older and being within the library system. I come across so many books, and so many patrons tell me about books, and I start looking up about books and authors and similar authors. Especially, I have this one sweet old lady, God bless her. She loves this one author. Um, I see her name in my head, but I can't. I know it's like Meg, a middle name, and then like a name with a C, Cabot. I don't know. But she hasn't written many things, and she picked up one of her books because she was moving away from like James Patterson and all this crime and gore and stuff like that, and she like loved her books, and she got everything she could. Fortunately, she can only read large print. Um, so like it was kind of there. Not too many publishers or books come out in large print, or if they do come out in large print, it's much later down the line. Um, so like, and I was trying to see similar books after she read everything she could, and like I love doing that. So anyways, my point is I am versed. I've read some of the most horrible things in a book, like trigger warning out the wazoo, to like super clean, like they didn't kiss till book 5, aka The Others by Anne Bishop. So like I've read a lot of things, and I was really intrigued. I'm really into dystopian worlds and just kind of like the whole dynamic of that and what the author how the author perceives this dystopian world that they created, what the characters do, how they try to like bring things back together to like a new society. I love that stuff. I eat it up. So I saw that I could request Daggermouth via my e-reading app provided through my library. And I waited. I was like, oh, I kept checking to see if we were going to get a physical book because I've noticed that whoever is um, in charge of buying books at the head branch is buying a lot of like the trendy, like romantasy fantasy books. So I kind of see like a lot of indie authors coming in. And I had requested, like, please buy this book. And I kept checking and checking and checking. They still haven't bought it, which is fine. But it got suggested to me to borrow. And I was like, oh my gosh, I borrowed it. I mentioned it in my last video to be read. And I read all the trigger warnings. I saw what the author wrote, like, I appreciate that. And that didn't deter me. I understood that it was going to be very dark and all that stuff. And I got to page 140 of the book. And I'm not saying that, I know an article came out accusing this author of AI. I didn't detect that personally. I don't know if I could detect that right off the bat. I'm not grammatically savvy, so it has to be like super bad writing for me. Like, okay, I even think this is not written well, or it's just very like robotic, or how some AI writing is. So I don't think that. And I didn't finish a book, so I can't say like, oh, this was like a terrible book or anything like that. So disclaimer, I'm not trying to say that the book is like bad. It just was not for me. And the reason it was not for me was how violent the relationship is starting or started. And another also the mask thing to them, because I kept reading the synopsis like after understanding like he was going to marry someone and she was part of this part of town, and I was like, how in the world are they gonna end up in a marriage? Like, I just couldn't, how the society is and all that stuff, I just couldn't understand it. It made absolutely no sense to me. And then what happened, I was just kind of like, really? That reason seemed so like dull, so like minor, like it just really didn't make sense. But the point I'm trying to get to, why I DNF'd it, sorry for my rambling and my side tangents. I have read mafia romances where, she's a sweet little meek person and the main male character is like this brutal, violent boss overlord of the mafia. Um, the oh my gosh, I haven't read mafia romance in a little bit. So the mafia and the syndicate and all this stuff, I've read plenty. I read Rena Kent a lot. I love her. One of my favorite parts of her like universe is the Vow of Deception trilogy, I think it is. I ate that up. That was like a mind blowing. This other one that was part of that same world, I forget what it is. I'll put pictures here if I remember. That was brutal, but oh my god, that was amazing. And what was different, again, we're talking enemies to lovers. My tea's ready for milk and sugar. 1 second. I've got my tea. Okay, so what was I saying? Okay, so the difference with all the mafia romance that I've read, and some of it has been really dark themes, a mile long trigger warning list, very harmful, whatever. But what always stays current in all of those books, while the male main character is like broody, dark, and heartless, and violent, and all that stuff, the moment the FMC comes into the picture, he is like obsessed. He is like instantly wants to protect her, some instant love, but kind of just like she just opens up and something inside of him brings light to his darkness type of situation, right? And I was even reading this like at work. I'm like, okay, it's almost due. Let me see if I'm gonna keep reading this so I can finish it up. I really like I was hyped up about it. I just kept seeing again very short, quick videos on Instagram. Like, you have to read this book of the year, amazing, all this stuff. And it got to the point where they're together. Again, this is some spoilers, just letting you know. They get together, they're in his apartments, and the she's like following him. He's trying to check, like, debug the place or see where his father has planted all these listening devices, blah blah blah. And she starts like nagging on him, blah blah blah. And they start beating the absolute shit out of each other. Like, absolute crap. Like, I was like this. I was like, I was affronted. I was like, oh my God. It just kind of gave me the ick, you know? And again, some of the mafia romances I have read, the, you know, the mafia guy steals a girl, does some like beating. You know, a lot of what I read, my morals go out the window. Dark romance is not for everyone, let me tell you. But it's sometimes he's not doing it, or you hear his inner monologue and he's like, what am I doing? Things like that. This was just so, I don't know. And I saw that the author, it was like italicized. He had this thought that he was like, what the, why am I thinking that? Kind of like starting to the smallest like mustard seed plant of feelings. And I was just like, I don't know, it just seemed really unrealistic. And I was just like, you know what? This isn't for me anymore. Truly, honestly, you know, maybe I'll pick it up again in the future. But just, I don't know, like, I couldn't see the chemistry. And she has this sexual partner in her part of town that she like left, and he like loves her, and we were seeing things from his perspective. And I don't know, like, I do love me an enemies to lovers, but not necessarily that like they're about to kill each other. Enemies to lovers, I think that was my thing, that I was just like, oh man, like, if their end game or whatever, they end up liking each other, I'm gonna find it really hard to, despite leaving my morals at the door, I'm gonna find it really hard to kind of like feel the love, you know what I mean? So that is why I DNF'd one of the biggest books of the year. Again, it's just not for me. And again, I only read to 100, page 140, which I feel like is a decent enough read to like know for sure, like, yeah, this is not for me. I got a grasp of the world, which was very dark and brutal, very interesting. Like the whole rings and everything, I really liked that. Um, I really liked the male main character, like what he was doing, trying to like amends for his like sins of being the Punisher and stuff like that. Very interesting. And I went and kind of like perused the reviews, which I try not to do unless I'm like really conflicted and really peeved of like where things are going, and I need to just know in advance, because there's too many things I got to read and I don't got time to be pissed off from a book. So I was reading that, like, yes, it starts enemies to lovers, but then they're like instantly infatuated and like effing around. And I don't know, I've read so many different things. Historical romance does a really good job with this, that because of, you know, olden times, they can't just. So I feel like after watching this video back, I kind of derailed a little bit from my point. The point I'm trying to make, despite all the dark stuff that I have read in the past, dark situations, dark start to the relationship, the author still makes it a point to form a connection to the two main characters, that yes, I can see a relationship in the future. And from what I read, I just struggled to see this at all. Be fucking around, they gotta, you know, court each other. And the way historical romance builds, like the anticipation, the just like yearning, and oh my gosh, just from like, you know, clandestine meetings, and like, you know, there's a ball and they meet in the maze, and or they run into each other, like a touch of the wrist, and just like talking is just like, oh my gosh. And I've also read like um Everlasting by Alexi Harrow. That, it was violent or kind of like intense situations and stuff like that, and all this back and forth. But you just kind of feel like, I mean, you can, they weren't enemies at all, but you could just feel like the love. And even in Vow of Deception by Rena Kent, if you read that at all, it's he picks up this woman off the street who's like just in crazy condition, braggled, homeless looking, and he starts taking care of her, but he's like this broody, and you don't know. I'm not going to reveal because it's such a fun reveal. When I read that, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Oh my God, I don't know. There's just so many different things. And again, to each their own. I'm so happy for the author. It was such a success for her. So many people love the book. You might love the book, but I've come to the realization that just like extreme dark romance where it's like borderline like violent and toxic straight off the get-go. And I don't know, like some authors really, okay, like while this is morally corrupt, I can see it. I can see the connection. But yeah, so I just wanted to share. Hopefully my thoughts were making sense. I don't know, I'm just rambling. I just really wanted to come on here and share why I DNF'd. Maybe I'll pick it up again in the future. Again, it's a very interesting premise of like this type of dystopian world. I knew it was going to be very brutal. I'm not like, oh, the author like lied to me. Like I read the whole beginning, like there's going to be a lot of this. Da, 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 da. Like I read that. I was just like, oh, I was kind of like bummed out because I was like really excited about it. But I was just like, oh, this is too much. It's too much. And I also wasn't reaching for it to like see what was happening next. Like, and if a book's not doing that for me, not that it's a bad book, it's just like not the book for me. So, but I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to end things here. I'm going to start making breakfast. I am ready for work. Let me see if I can try to show you. Hold on, let me see if I can try to show you my outfit for today. Okay, this is fully thrifted except for this belt. Super cute. I love stripes and a floral print together, and it has pockets. Well, I'm going to end the video here. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you've read Daggermouth, if you're planning to read Daggermouth, what you thought about it. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.